Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Thrive Through the Holidays podcast. I'm ilona Varo. I'm joined here with Dr. Tali, and we're going to be chatting all about naturopathic ways to support ourselves through this holiday season when there's a lot going on, a lot of festivities, a lot of traditions, a lot of food, a lot of alcohol, a lot of stress, a lot of everything.
Yeah,
If you could give us a little intro of yourself and your practice, and then we'll kind of get into the details.
absolutely. So, thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm a naturopathic medical doctor, and I practice Western medicine and evidence-based natural therapeutics. I'm based here in Los Angeles, and I practice out of a location in Brentwood called Well People Integrative Healing Space. And it's really a blessing to be here and share with you. My specialty and my passion is women's health, specifically hormone health, digestive health, and mental health.
Perfect. Love that. And
Yeah.
this is why I reached out to you because women's health is my passion, it's my focus, it's something that I'm very very deeply connected to and want to help as many people as possible. And that's the hope with this podcast too, is getting information out there that will hopefully land and help someone and lead them to their kind of next step along their journey, just getting more curious, getting more informed. So, what are some red flags that you've seen around this holiday season? And how can people recognize them early on in regards to their health and well-being?
Absolutely. So it's a great question. So when it comes to the holiday season, a lot of people are experiencing an increase in familial time, which can be really joyful for some people, and that's wonderful, spending more time with loved ones. For some people, that can bring up more stress. And with more stress, we can notice changes in physiological functioning in the body. So whether that's changes in eating patterns that are, usually really steady and really harmonizing to an individual, changes in exercise, changes in sleep, and all of those things have an impact on digestive health. So whether that's bloating, constipation, gas, or hormonal changes, changes in a woman's menstrual cycle, changes in sleep function. So it's really important to pay attention to, hey, as an individual, is a patient getting away from their balance, away from their center? Not necessarily anything physiological that is pathological, but something that is just a minor change that is important to return back to center before anything becomes too much of a challenge.
Amazing. That's a really great piece of information to just kind of track, observe, and be aware of what's normal for you and what might be kind of getting off kilter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If someone is noticing, hey, a little bit less sleep, or hey, the menstrual cycle is a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, or I notice increase in bloating, constipation. A lot of my patients will experience changes in digestive health as the first sign that something is amiss in their body. It's really a good marker of a change in health. So being aware of that is super important during the holidays. And there's actually a lot that people can do that they might not be privy to that would be very helpful for kind of going back on track and honoring the body, honoring that joy of, spending time with loved ones, or kind of the changes of going home for a few days and then coming back to one's schedule.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways we can honor that.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing some of those things? Because I know that people typically respond with more stress, right? We're stressed, we're off kilter, we're out of balance, and then we start to freak out about it. Like, oh my God, what do I do? This is bad. This is wrong. There's something wrong with me.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So there's a lot we can do. The first thing is having a daily morning mindfulness practice or a daily morning journaling practice, anything that really connects you to your center, whether that's a prayer, a mindfulness meditation app like Insight Timer is one of my favorites that I love recommending to patients. It's so lovely. They have incredible, incredible meditations. Um, so finding kind of that daily centering activity in the morning is really important. And then from there, one can notice, hey, am I on track or am I feeling a little off, a little bit more stressed? And everyone's needs are distinct when it comes to stress, of course, but some people really thrive through going to a Pilates class. Other people really thrive by talking to a loved one and going for a walk. So finding a way to have gentle and athletic movement every day that's loving and nourishing for the body, and also something that is really healthful for connection, prioritizing, of course, responsibility. So things like work and things that also bring joy in other areas, but really having that mindfulness meditation practice or some kind of practice in the morning. Exercise and healthy relationships will get you very far during the holiday season, just like any time of year.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I had that huge download this morning when I was just kind of like craving moving my body. And I know that it helps me connect to myself. So any kind of movement, like a walk or like you said, Pilates, yoga, whatever, is such a great time to do a body scan and check in and how's my body feeling and what emotions are present, where am I holding on to things. And then in that movement, I also find that so much comes forward, so much wisdom. I always get my best ideas when I'm moving my body. I'm like, I need to stop. I need to make a little note. So that connection to the self is really vital. And I don't think that it's a practice that most people do, or when they're moving their body, they're not necessarily thinking, oh, I'm connecting to myself. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I'm burning calories or I'm working out, or like it feels more pressured or disconnected rather than I'm tuning into what my body needs and wants. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your thoughts on that?
I absolutely love what you're saying. It's so true. I think that any athletic practice, whether that's the Pilates class, CrossFit, a dance class, any kind of movement experience, it's very important to come from a place of joy, because when we move from a place of joy, we actually want to do things more and more. When we're coming from a place of need and lack, it creates a feedback loop that's actually not really one that we want to be in. So I always recommend to my patients, and I always write in my treatment recommendations, and also when I'm communicating with patients, find something that's going to work for you and is going to lead to more expansion and more joy, because that is where your health will come from. It's not going to come from any kind of boundaries or lack that is controlling in nature. We want
Yeah.
really the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. The punishment side of moving your body or the I need to, I have to. It doesn't, even just saying that, I feel how it doesn't feel good in my body just saying, but I need to, I have to, versus, oh, this feels like an expression, joyful.
Exactly, exactly. It's that joy, and also it's also that sense of mastery. Finding, a challenging experience. It's a gift to be able to challenge oneself in anything that we do. So if for me, for instance, I started going to a new dance class recently. And the dance class is challenging me to get more into both my capacity to memorize movements and do them repetitively and quickly, and also athletically challenging. So, finding something I love to recommend to patients that is both building cognitively and physically would be really optimal. It's also great for preserving brain health, so preventing any kind of neurocognitive challenges down the road. It's really important to have that hand-eye coordination and upkeep the both physical and mental component of our physical activity. So moving from a place of how can I have more joy, and also how can I have more health.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I love that you're saying that because one of my biggest passions is helping people overcome the body image side of movement. A lot of my patients come from disordered eating and body image things happening. And so their relationship to movement has always been punishing and restrictive and forced and a means to an end. And it's so liberating to come back to movement and what you're saying about the cognitive capacities, even emotionally, to be able to laugh at yourself, to make a mistake, to look silly, to just like, oh my gosh, my body can do that, to feel getting stronger. There's so much empowerment. I know that word gets overplayed all the time, but it's just so empowering and expressive to be able to be in your body and move. So I love that you're kind of bringing that all together.
I love what you're saying. It is actually so empowering to move one's body from a place of pleasure and also a place of power.
Yeah.
Very important. And I completely concur. And also in it's very interesting. So 80% of the serotonin in the body is produced in the gut and the digestive. So digestive health is very important. And when we have a feeling of joy and a feeling of happiness, and we increase those positive feelings, we actually increase our digestive capacity. We actually are producing physiological changes in the body that are beneficial over time. So we really want to focus on these kind of practices, and we can't exactly move towards joy according to at least Buddhism, but we certainly can move towards mindfulness, with which creates a place of equanimity and therefore joy. And I think that we can bring that sense to everything that we do, whether that's movement, mindful eating,
Yeah.
seeing what arises, and then returning back to the present moment. And in that, we experience joy.
Noticing what arises and bringing it back into the present moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. That's very powerful.
Yeah,
It's a great practice. I mean, even just that, notice what arises and bring it back into the present moment. That can be the practice over and over again.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can you touch on a little bit the relationship to food in similar kind of contexts, looking for joy and what works for you and, stress and guilt and things? Because that comes up a lot around the holidays. So much judgment, so much fear, so much guilt. How can we kind of implement these thought processes to our relationship to food?
Absolutely. So I really appreciate what you were sharing as well about the kind of patients that you work with, and your experience of how food shows up for them. In my experience working with patients as well, it's really important to find a diet that will work well for individual patients. So what's going to work really well for one patient will not work for another patient, because everyone is so individual. Their relationship with food is unique and their health conditions are unique. So for instance, if somebody has something like, SIBO, although they technically might do really well with a certain type of diet that is more restrictive, if they have challenges with disordered eating from the past, it actually might make sense to have a less restrictive diet and to have different kind of supplementation to honor their body instead. So really working collaboratively with each individual is important. And when it comes to specifically the holidays and how to nourish our food during the holidays, I what I love about the holidays is we're surrounded by so many different kinds of food, so many different sorts of experiences that we might not usually be privy to. And that's beautiful, because it's actually an opportunity for us to experience different kinds of foods, experience different kinds of experiences with family and friends, and then return back to what we know works for us. So having that adaptability is actually one of the best symbols of health, is the capacity to move away from our center and come back towards balance more quickly and with greater flexibility.
Mm. So resiliency.
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it. I love that. So relationship to food, like food resiliency, for example, and family dynamic resiliency and stress resiliency, all these things coming back to your center.
Yes. Yes, precisely.
Yeah. And I love that we're really emphasizing, what is best for you is not going to be what is best for me. And that comes in your morning practice, your relationship to food, movement. Like the best morning routine is the one that you're going to do and that works for you and that makes you feel good. So
Yes.
in this world of social media and comparison and keeping up and just all those little traps that we can fall into, I really appreciate that message of finding what is best for you.
I love that too. It's so needed, because there's usually a one size fits all, and it's not really the case in reality. When it comes to actual healthcare, it's everyone's body is unique, not only because we all have different experiences in life, but because the seasons change what our body needs. Our individual birth body type, according to Ayurveda, changes what we need. And from a naturopathic lens, from a more of a Western medical science lens, depending on which conditions we have, we need different kinds of foods. So it's really important to honor and respect and appreciate the gift and the wisdom of our intuitive understanding of our body. Hey, this is what my body is telling me that I need. Here's what the science is saying. And then here is what, wisdom traditions are saying. And how can we honor all of those? And then at the same time, just relax, surrender, and return to our intuition, because that's the greatest gift that we have when it comes to our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier, tapping into that intuition comes from stillness and connection and silence and being with ourselves
Yes.
and, journaling, meditation, mindfulness, movement, all of those things really bring forward our body's wisdom and our even just like soul wisdom, cognitive wisdom, just
Yeah.
being in the practice of being with ourselves, which I know is the opposite of scrolling mindlessly, endlessly, and disconnecting from ourselves.
Even just to hear you say that in this moment, it just dropped me into my center. I was just in like a little mindfulness meditation, just in that millisecond right there. And that's actually something we can always come back to, in the moment when we're experiencing more stress. And I recommend to patients. And I also, in the beginning of every patient visit, I start off with a 30-second to minute mindfulness meditation practice, because when we're actually in that mindful presence and that stillness, the truth of what we feel and need emerges much more quickly and more succinctly. So it's not only a gift, but it's actually a requirement for healthful living to have that mindful presence.
Love that. Yeah, it's so, so true. And
Yeah.
I'm sure this is not news to you, but so many people have an aversion to mindfulness. So can you maybe add a little bit to why it's so important and maybe different ways to incorporate it? Because I know as far as my clients and patients go, like there's such a like, I don't want to, I'm not going to, I'm not good at meditating. It's hard.
Oh my goodness. So I think that is every human on planet Earth. That was me at 6:45 this morning,
I can break that down to meditate. I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
I think that resistance is part of the practice. And I taught yoga for many years, and in my experience of teaching yoga, people would come up to me all the time and say, "I can't do yoga," and I would say it's not about the achievement of being able to do the pose. In the same way, it's not about the achievement of having perfect health, which there really isn't any. It's about the process of moving towards greater and greater health, and the process of moving towards the pose, just like it is with meditation. So the goal of meditation and mindfulness is to notice when we move away, like, oh, I have a thought that's arising. And then just in that one sentence, you automatically return back to presence. And it's just that repetition of being mindful and coming back to presence over and over again that is the true essence of what it is to be mindful, nothing else.
Beautiful. Yeah. And in the world of perfectionists, where we want to be great at something from the start, that can be very challenging. The practice of coming back and getting it wrong and getting like wrong, of course, there is no wrong, but
Yeah.
that personality type that is like, I just want to get it right or I'm not doing it unless I'm doing it perfectly.
Yes, absolutely. And I have so much space for patients like that, which is, it's very common. People want to be perfect with their supplement routine, with their diet. And I understand, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. And simultaneously, there is no perfect. In fact, when we do perfection, it creates more cortisol. And when we're trying to strive towards more and more perfection and more cortisol is going up, it's actually impacting hormonal health and digestive health. The goal is really 80%, and if it's a little less some days, a little more than others, people are right on track, and that's ideal.
Yeah. And I love what you said about just moving towards something too. There's people on different starting points in this journey. They're, some are further along, some are not. And so that's, I guess, the point is just maybe have a direction that you want to be moving toward and focus on moving toward it instead of getting there perfectly, quickly, right on time, whatever that means.
Exactly, exactly. It's really it's really such a gift. So we live in a world that thinks that um progress looks like that. And I know me and you have chatted about this before, and it's actually going down, it's coming back up, it's going down. And this gift of knowing that we're actually right on track when we are moving in the general direction over time. It's not about the small increments, it's about the general guideline and the general goalpost.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I hope that that can offer some hope to someone that's listening that is maybe beating
Yeah.
themselves up or frustrated that they're not, getting there quickly enough. That's absolutely really important to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other guides, skills for stress? I think that is really kind of also the theme of what we're talking about here and during this season. Ways to support our bodies through the season of stress.
Absolutely. So there's a lot that we can do naturopathically beyond healthful diet, such as uh, eating lots of cooked, nourishing, easy to digest foods, lots of protein, lots of fiber and vegetables, um, exercise that is physically challenging but appropriate for one's capacity, that is also joyful, such as a challenging Pilates class or weightlifting or a brisk walk. Beyond that, there's a lot of support we can do supplementally as well. And this is certainly not medical advice by any means, but herbs that are nervine support. So things like chamomile, vervain, passion flower, things that are calming for the nervous system but are very gentle, can be really supportive for people during the holidays when stress can be a little bit higher. Anything that is more sedative, like kava, that has GABA, which is calming for neurotransmitters, is also really helpful as well. So just kind of depends on the individual, what they're currently taking with their medications and supplements and what their needs are. But there's so much that we can do as individuals.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much. And the base of actually the mental component actually has to do with the gut brain axis. So when we work on digestive health, so supporting digestion with um, things like digestive enzymes, bitters, things that are really helpful for supporting gastrointestinal functioning and hydrochloric acid and the digestion of the whole of the gut can be really helpful for mental health and also for anxiety specifically.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so important to hear too, because anxiety is very prevalent in our lives, and it's nice to hear that there's so many different approaches. There's the lifestyle, the nutrition, the movement, the mental health, the gut health, the hormone health, the supplements. So that's not to say that an individual has to do it all, but hopefully, again, follow what inspires you. What out of what we've talked about here today kind of piqued a little interest? Check in with yourself if there's something that resonated in a way that maybe is a little expansive and is evoking curiosity. Like that's exactly what this is here for, to follow that and get more curious. And if people want to dive deeper into their own unique physiology, what is the best way for them to get into contact with you?
That's a great question. So the best way is to contact me through my website. My website is doctor spelled out, so DOCTOR, and then Talia, TALIA.com, or through my Instagram, which is Talia's with an S, and then Realm, REALM, and you can follow me there. And I would absolutely love to chat with you. I do a free introductory consult just to see how I can best support you and if we'd be a good match.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. I really appreciate it. It resonates so deeply with my philosophy and my approach, and I love to collaborate. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and I hope that this helped someone out there listening.
I hope that it did too. And thank you so very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm very grateful to be here today and wishing you all very well out there.
Thank you so much.